A long time ago, on a comics page far, far away.
Welcome to Panel Up, your monthly pop culture panel. I'm John Campbell.
And I am Mike Gargoni.
Back again for another month. It's not yet the spooky season, but we're close enough that they're already releasing Halloween movies.
Screw it, John. We're starting the spooky season early this year.
Hey, man, if Christmas can start like 3 months before, why not Halloween?
Halloween creep in August. That's what I say.
That's what Tim Burton says, too. Tim Burton's living Halloween year-round, baby. And
Tim Burton has a constant Halloween aura around him that just generates weird stripy costumes and pumpkins wherever he goes.
You saw the life and death of Superman Lives, right?
Yes, yes.
When they go to Tim Burton's house in it, it is... You almost want it to not be, because it's just like, oh, it's exactly what I think it looks like. Like black wrought iron gates, all the curtains are closed. He's wearing glasses inside of an already dark... sunglasses inside of an already dark house.
Did you think that the house that Edward Scissorhands lives in was too subtle?
It is like, you kind of, I mean, like I said, there was a part of me that kind of wanted him to live in like a totally normal, like split level suburban home. But no, of course not. He lives in a weird fucking gothic castle.
Well, because his whole vibe is, I was a weird spooky boy who was raised in the suburbs, right? Like, that's his whole aesthetic.
Well, and that's the interesting thing about, and here we go. We're just jumping right in to Burton talk.
Yeah. I mean, it's inescapable with this film.
It is, but that's the thing about Tim Burton is he is one of the ultimate examples of, but he was doing that before it was cool. Everyone's been copying him.
We're talking about Beetlejuice this week.
Beetlejuice. Thank you to the Blank Check for giving me this information. I did not know. I hadn't really kept count. The 21st directorial effort from Tim Burton.
If we're not counting like Wednesday on TV.
Not Wednesday. Is this 21st feature director, I should say. Feature directorial. Because not counting his animated shorts or Wednesday or any of the commercials or anything that he's done. But yes, specifically feature film. And this is the longest gap he's taken between feature directorial efforts. 5 years since Dumbo.
All right, Dumbo. The thing where Disney was like, what if we could harness some kind of Burton engine to really hone in on people's nostalgia and then bolt something onto it in the form of Dumbo, the thing that basically nobody has nostalgia for because they were all not alive when Dumbo came out.
Dumbo is, I think, my favorite of the live action because nobody really has nostalgia. They were sort of just like, do whatever you want, Tim Burton.
And look, it's part of the Keaton Renaissance that this movie that we're talking about this month sort of, I don't know. Have we reached a pinnacle and it's all downhill from here? I guess we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's directing now. We'll see. Yeah, I mean, the back-to-back years, because wasn't The Flash last year? Yes, it was. Okay. The fact that within a 2-year span he has returned to both Batman and Beetlejuice, pretty interesting.
I'm just waiting for his return to Multiplicity, and then the circle will be complete.
I'm waiting for Mr. Grandmom.
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That writes itself.
It really does.
But yeah, no, there's no question that although the thing about Beetlejuice that's so interesting is they have been trying to make Beetlejuice 2 since Beetlejuice 1 came out. There has never not been some level of development being done on another Beetlejuice in 36 years.
And, or I'm coming in hot on this one, John. Maybe they shouldn't have.
Oh, sir.
I'm going to rip this Band-Aid right now. I thought this movie was fine. I think it's a big hot mess. And I
think this movie is a delight that should be shared by all generations. I think this will stand aside the other one as an annual Halloween viewing. I've seen it twice. I went again and saw it because I saw it right when it came out, and I wanted to see it again before this review. I think this movie is delightful.
24 hours after seeing this movie, I could not tell you a single thing that happened in it.
Ugh. Couldn't be more wrong on this one.
I had to spend the morning going through like an inner like mind space to be like, okay, what happened in the movie Beetlejuice Beetlejuice?
The juice is loose, sir.
That's in the trailer. Yep, I know that.
Juice is loose.
He makes an OJ joke. I understand.
Well, he actually just in this whole movie has started referring to himself as the Juice, which I enjoyed. Is a new development for this guy who hasn't changed much in the 36 years since we've seen him.
Correct.
Do you want him to? I don't want him to be any different.
No, okay. Look, I don't know how quickly you want me to get into the issues I have with this movie, because I think this is going to be a debate between you and I in which you were delighted by something and I found it like recklessly repetitive and scattershot.
It probably is. But I will just say one of the things I really like about this movie, and was something that was a big Keaton point to come back, was maintaining Beetlejuice as Beetlejuice. Not filling the movie with him, not making him the protagonist, because, as Mikey said, he can't be the protagonist.
Right. Beetlejuice is the Loki of this
He's
series,
an agent of chaos.
He's an agent of chaos. He comes in like a whirlwind, and he needs to be used with a fairly light touch. The instinct to make him the main character is how, I mean, look, it'd be very easy for this franchise to turn into the Beetlejuice show, right? And
I think a lot of the scripts that were developed in the interim were, I think, that.
Right. Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian being the famous like cult identified of just like this script circulated for like a decade where Beetlejuice and a vacation movie are mashed together.
Time, that was the idea, was that the Deets would move to Hawaii and Beetlejuice would follow them there.
Hilarious.
Yeah, and then the other big one that was circulated around was something called Beetlejuice in Love, which would have been no returning characters and just Beetlejuice.
Like any monster movie where so to reveal somehow some sausage it's made a little bit, you and I are doing a season of the IP Squad as well, in which we talk about classic monster movies.
Start coming out in probably like a month still,
But we just finished recording an episode about Predator 2, and in that we had a discussion about how the monster sort of becomes the main character as like monster movie franchises go forward, and the same could have happened to Beetlejuice.
Yes. I mean, that, and I think, once again, I think that's often the mistake of these franchises, right? It's like, well, he's the most fun character.
The movie's literally named after him.
Right, because he is the thing that everything kind of revolves around, but that doesn't make him the main character. In the original movie, the main characters were Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis, and sort of Winona Ryder, who's, firmly now the main character in this movie, her and her daughter. So that sort of has to keep that way, or else, once again, I think a whole movie of this guy would be
insufferable.
Well, he would either be insufferable, or you'd have to change him and make him less. He'd end up being less fun. Because we've seen that too, right? Where it's like, well, once we get into, he's kind of sad actually, or something like that. Then you're like, all right, now he's not fun anymore.
You get Drop Dead Fred is what you get.
Yes, you get that thing where it's like, because if he becomes the main character, then he has to have an arc. And then you're like, well, now you're changing him. And if he's changing, now he's not fun anymore. He needs to be Beetlejuice. And so I think that's one of the things I really respect about this script, is that they just keep him the juice.
Yeah, you're going to hate me for this line, John. I think the words respect and this script I cannot say in the same sentence. This script is all over the place.
Not really for me. That's an interesting thing. It has a lot of pieces to it, but I don't know. I mean, here's the thing to me about this is a vibe movie, right?
It totally is.
I think the first one is a vibe movie too. This one has more stuff in it. But I think the idea of narrative cohesion in a Beetlejuice movie, there's enough here for me.
The first one has a fairly simple A to B to C plot. It is ghosts in a house, insufferable people move into house, ghosts want to get rid of those people, they unleash Beetlejuice not really knowing what they're signing up for.
Sort of, yeah.
I mean, that's the basic plot of the first Beetlejuice.
Like super reduced, yeah.
I can't do that sort of narrative reduction to this film because there's too many plot lines going on.
But the difference is I don't think that's a negative. I don't think that's a bad thing.
I just think there's so much happening.
Yeah.
And look, I think taken individually, they're all circling around each other, but then when they meet, it's all sort of like hand waved away by, and just Beetlejuice doesn't care because you can summon a sandworm and eat 2 of the 6 plot lines away.
Well, that's how those are dealt with. Yeah, I mean, those are how those villains are eliminated.
But Beetlejuice is also an antagonist in the film, so like, why have 3 other antagonists?
Well, I mean, Justin Theroux, his character particularly, feels like a piece of the same sort of antagonistic forces in the original movie that aren't Beetlejuice, right? Which is the sort of image obsessed, whether that's characters like Otho in the original movie, right? Where it's like there's always sort of this like insincerity that I think is often a villain, and I think like we're talking about, because Tim Burton so has this very clear voice to himself. I feel like a lot of his villains are people who are phonies.
Sure, yeah, no.
And so I think that's his character. I think it's fun to give Beetlejuice an antagonist.
Like Monica Bellucci is just given nothing to do in this film, which is part of my issue with yet another plot line.
I think she's great, though. I love the design of her is fantastic. Her introductory scene, wonderful when she staples herself back together. And it just makes me laugh that he's running from, oh God, the ex-wife. Oh boy. I gotta say that. I know what you're thinking. Who could tie the juice down? How
much of your love of Beetlejuice is A, the fact that it's Michael Keaton, and B, the fact that you can do a pretty good impression of it?
No, I mean a lot of it is just not the impression part of it. I mean, that just speaks to how fucking much I've watched the original movie.
I know.
And the Broadway musical. I'm also a massive fan of the musical Beetlejuice.
And I guess maybe has my enjoyment of Beetlejuice been diminished by not taking in the Broadway musical, John?
Oh, I think so. Just because I think it's wonderful. It's a delightful play, and especially if you can see it with. Oh shit! Why am I blanking on his name? The guy who played Beetlejuice in it, who's amazing. He's one of my favorites.
Michael Keaton.
No. that would have been incredible. I don't know about Keaton's ability as a singer. I don't think I've ever heard him sing in anything. He lip syncs very well in these Beetlejuice movies, but I feel terrible for not.
It's not important, John. I do not need to know the lead of.
No, I just for my own thing and to get him recognized. But no, we can keep talking. I'll just shout his name out at some point here. But no, I mean a lot of it is just I just like Beetlejuice. And I mean the character, and I mean the vibe of the whole thing. Alex Brightman.
Okay.
Who's amazing. He also did the School of Rock musical, which he was fantastic in, and he's been doing the Jaws play right now, which I would love to see. The shark is not working. About the making of Jaws. Anyway, we're just playing Richard Dreyfuss. But I love the vibe of this thing, and I think I think it's what you're saying is something that's been leveled at a lot of Burton movies, which is the guy, and he even will own this. He is not a narrative-focused filmmaker. He's like, I don't really know what makes a good story. And so but I just like living in his world, and particularly when your guide to that world, if not main character, is a totally iconic, beloved comedy character played by, yes, one of our greatest living actors.
In a lot of other Burton movies, there is an emotional spine to those films that I can latch onto and vibe with, and it can carry me through the eldritch weirdness that has creeped onto the screen out of the brain of Tim Burton.
Mm-hmm. Tim Burton is definitely one of the first filmmakers I think that they were really latching on to from the mind of Tim Burton.
Exactly. And I like a film like Frankenweenie because it is playing in this very profound boy and his dog like archetype, right? Mm-hmm. Or a film like Edward Scissorhands, which plays so firmly in the I'm a social outcast, how do I find acceptance?
Mm-hmm.
Beetlejuice, the first one, even plays with this idea of I'm just trying to lead a normal life and these people with strange ideas are invading my space, if we take the Maitlands in the first movie as the main characters.
Right.
And that is an emotional spine I can latch on to.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is in this movie.
You don't think it's the Lydia and Astrid relationship? This is, at its core, a mother and daughter story. And a movie about moving on from trauma. Which by the way, I'm pretty sure somebody can make a supercut of me saying that about every major release of the last 5 years has been about dealing with trauma. Like, it's just, I wonder why, but it's an overwhelming theme in modern filmmaking.
Totally. I think it can be very easily proposed that is like presented as the main theme. I don't feel it watching this movie. I think the pieces of it superficially are there, but they don't do enough in this movie to invest me in that relationship because the characters are having these different storylines that aren't together, right? Like everything is sort of circling each other until the wedding scene at the end. Spoilers for Beetlejuice. There's a wedding scene.
Oh, yeah. We should always mention spoiler alert, I guess, starting now. Everything is pushing on each other, right? They're not all connecting in maybe traditional narrative ways, but they're all sort of pushing each other towards that ending. I don't care, though. I guess maybe that's the thing. I don't care. I don't think it's bad. I like each of these story threads, and I'm satisfied by the conclusion that they come to. Monica Bellucci could be more fleshed out as a character, sure, but I like what is here with her. I fucking love the flashback scene to them.
Italian horror movie flashback scene.
I mean, and he calls out Mario Bava later in the movie too, where I'm just like, this is the thing I think, and I've seen a lot because this is in no way a refutation or me trying to go like my perspective, but this movie has been massively successful.
And that's the thing that I won't deny is that like something is clicking with people in this movie.
And I think one of the things that is, and one of the reasons why there sort of has been this also like Burton's back, baby. This does feel like an unrestrained Burton for the first time in a long time. I don't think Burton ever like lost it. He is a guy who,
I've seen Dark Shadows.
I like Dark Shadows actually, but I mean, I would point more to like Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children as like he's. That's not a particularly great movie, but the biggest disappointment to me is it also just feels like Burton's not engaged. You know what I mean? Like it just feels like that the ultimate is the ultimate example to me of like I think this is what I think people want me to make, as opposed to this sort of feels like he's like fuck it. I'm gonna Burton the shit out of this movie. And so there's a sense of play that I haven't seen from him in a while. Even as much as I enjoyed Dumbo, that is sort of like, I've got my hand firmly on the wheel of this massive corporate thing. Whereas Beetlejuice feels like it's like, oh man, I get to do this and I get to come up with this silly thing. The Soul Train? You weren't laughing at the Soul Train?
Here's the thing, John.
All aboard the Soul Train.
I enjoyed specific moments of this film. This film got me a few times, and I laughed out loud.
The movie's hilarious.
See You in Hell, Fucker was one of the like hardest laughs I've had in the theater in a while.
Yeah.
The Soul Train was very funny to me. I thoroughly enjoyed some of the like gags, as it were, in this film. The whole headless torso wandering around in the background of this film because one of our lead actors from the first movie turned out to be a terrible person. I found pretty funny.
I mean, and that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. There's a playfulness I haven't seen out of Burton in a long time. And it is that sort of stuff. The idea also of doing the flashback to his death as being a stop motion thing, very Burton as well.
Totally.
all that stuff. I just think there's such, and everybody has that feeling here. This doesn't feel like everybody's like, yeah, all right, let's,
everyone's clearly having fun. Michael
Juice.
Keaton is clearly having the time of his life in this
Oh,
film.
I mean, it is. I totally believe him when he's like, yeah, can I still do that? And then as soon as he got back and he's like, oh, right, that's how this guy is.
And like Willem Dafoe, every scene he's in is very funny. Every time he's handed yet another cup of coffee, I'm laughing.
Defoe steals this movie to me, and this is a movie where I already love Beetlejuice, but I'm obsessed with the Willem, because that feels like a joke I would write. I think is maybe probably Wolf Jackson. The idea that the underworld's chief detective is a guy who played a movie cop.
It feels like a runner.
You've got to keep it real.
It feels like a runner from an old Mad TV episode. Like sometimes that show would have like an ongoing skit across the episode, and that Willem Dafoe's character feels like that in this movie.
Well, it's an interesting thing because I have heard some of the criticisms like, you could just take Willem Dafoe and Monica Bellucci out of this movie. I'm like, well, actually, you couldn't take. You kind of can't take Monica Bellucci out. You can talk about whether she's an undefined character.
One of them, because both of them are hunting Beetlejuice.
Yes. The thing is, Defoe does have no narrative in this movie, but I kind of like that. He is just this guy who is following the pieces and is just this weird bit of eccentricity in this movie. And that is fine to me as an audience member. I don't see that as a negative of a script. I did not need that guy to have a narrative. He is just there.
I could say the same thing about Catherine O'Hara's character.
Catherine O'Hara's character
is just a weird bit of eccentricity that doesn't really have a narrative arc.
First movie. Does she have a narrative arc? I don't know.
No.
I don't care. I don't care. I don't, because I didn't think that watching. I've seen the movie twice. I guess I'm not tracking that. I'm just going like, I like her. She's really funny in this movie. I love when she's
very funny in this movie.
Captured the primal scream. I love that she dies because she got gypped by somebody on a defanged asp. You better collect that money back. That's all I'm saying. I love that that's her concern. I also love that she goes to the afterlife and says, I know people. I should get me ahead in line. I know people.
Yeah.
Who can I talk to fix this? It's all very funny.
She hasn't missed a step since the first Beetlejuice. I think Catherine O'Hara is very funny.
One of the
but
treasures.
Again, does she like contribute to this idea of multi-generational motherhood that this movie is like, again, has the pieces of present? It doesn't actually have anything to say about it.
I like that she thinks she does. Right, because she isn't actually, ladies. I love the thing too where she tells about, well, after your mother died, number one, she's not dead. Like, you're not even my actual mother. Because she was in the first movie, she was the weird stepmom. And I don't know. Yeah, this movie definitely has less grounding forces in it than the Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis characters, the Maitlands. There really isn't an equivalent to them, which I kind of like that they. I have a feeling that this is gonna be one of your loose plot threads that you didn't like. I was so like, oh fuck, there's a teen romance in this, and when it made its turn, I'm like, oh good.
I mean, I saw that coming a mile away, I guess, and like again, no, hold on, John, hold on, don't be pooping down my throat before I say the thing I'm gonna say.
All right. You were the one who got me started from the start, so I'll just say
I know.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that a predictable plot is a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
I am saying that it was yet another plot line that among so many others that didn't seem to tie into any kind of emotional arc that I was looking for.
Well, I mean, other than it's Astrid looking for connection, right? And placing it in the wrong place. Or the connection she doesn't have with her family, so she finds this kid who seemingly is an outcast, except for he didn't not find connection with the family, he murdered his family.
Right. But it introduces, and there's so many things in this movie that do this, introduce these little snarls of narrative convenience that when given a second thought make me go, well, hold on, wait a minute. This retroactively changes things. Astrid being able to see this ghost boy and fall in love with him, introduces this idea that Astrid has inherited her mother's ability to see spirits.
Right.
How has this not come up before?
The movie doesn't obviously state this, but I sort of look at it as she chooses to ignore it or isn't perceiving it, much like she doesn't perceive this kid is a ghost.
But her whole arc in the movie, Jenna Ortega's character, Astrid, is mad at my mom because of ghost stuff.
Right.
Realizes ghost stuff is real. I am no longer mad at my mom.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, it is that, but through that is also what I'm saying though is, but there's a deeper level to that, right? Because it's like I'm mad at you about ghost stuff because if you were really good ghost, you could see my father, the one person that I won't. So once the ghost stuff is real and sees that the father's real, then she knows her mother wasn't just fucking with her on that.
Sure. Again, and there's this whole thing with the dad stuff that is just absolutely ham-fistedly wrapped up in this film when it's like, oh yeah, and he's just there.
Cute. I also like that he got eaten by piranhas.
Fun gag. Why is he just there?
I don't know. Why is anything in the afterlife the way it is?
But, you introduce this level of randomness in the Beetlejuice afterlife. There is this eccentricity of, oh, don't worry about the rules. They're all in this book, but no one bothers reading it. Right. And Beetlejuice is this point of chaos even within that nonsensical system.
He's the guy who's purposely tap dancing out of the rules and sort of indulging in the fact that no one's read them, right? Like his whole life is skating by because no one has read the rules.
I don't know. That scene in particular when they're running through the passport station and her dad is just suddenly there. That's when I leaned back in my seat in the theater and went, oh God, okay, fine. One more thing. It almost would have been more powerful to me if he had just not been in the movie at all. And they resolved their issues together without really acknowledging him.
I think he had to be, though, because they were both dealing with this, and also to introduce a dead character. The whole thing is that their relationship is based around, the fall of the relationship was based around the loss of a character, his death, and the movie's shown in the afterlife. How could you not bring him into it? And also, he's Captain Rios from Star Trek Picard.
He is Captain Rios from Star Trek Picard, who has one of the more disappointing character arcs in season 2 of that show, but okay.
Yeah, I don't I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but I agree. It just sort of I like it. I like the idea that he's like a guy who feels he belongs in the past, and so he stays there. I'm not sure the show really had the room to establish that because it had 8 other characters to establish arcs for.
And I got other problems with season 2 of Picard. I like that character, but yeah.
I like season 2 of Picard.
It's got its moments, like the movie Beetlejuice.
Oh, I don't know. I just have fun with it. None of this hit me, or like I said, even if I'm acknowledging that there's I think all the stuff is there. I think a lot of it, as we're talking about, is just you're not feeling it or it's not landing for you.
Yeah,
it's not like the movie is nonsense or doesn't do things, but you're talking about there's a lot of convenience because its main goal is to be wacky. Then it is.
It's a romp, is what this movie is.
Oh yeah,
and there's nothing wrong with a good wacky romp of a film. I think
the first one is also a romp.
Yeah,
I think this is of a piece with the first movie, and that's why a little bit when I'm hearing some of this is sort of just yes, you could argue that should be, there's a simpler plot, sure, but there is as much hand waving narrative stuff in that first movie too.
But that movie also doesn't have this level of sudden and abrupt story conclusion because it has less going on. This movie has to, in one fell swoop in the third act, end 4 out of the 6 arcs happening all at once. It has to end everything to do with the Lydia's new husband. It has to end everything to do with Monica Bellucci. It has to end everything to do with Ghost Boy and Willem Dafoe's character, basically all at the same time. The dead boyfriend stuff happens a little bit before the wedding.
Willem Dafoe's character, once again, has no plot. And I like that at the end of the movie, he accomplishes nothing but acts like he did. That's funny to me.
That plot line is literally paused while the wedding is happening.
Because it's not a plot line. I mean, that's my point. Right. Once again, he's just a guy following the thing, and then gets paused, and then comes back, and then goes like, "Wrap it up, boys."
Good work, everyone.
I love his team of Chips-looking dead cops.
It's the Ghoul Squad.
It's funny.
Yeah, it's funny.
Them coming into the church like they're a SWAT team, freeze everybody. That he wants to take. I mean, Willem Dafoe. Talk about if it feels like Burton is just having a good time. This is the most I think I've ever seen Willem Dafoe cut loose in anything. He's been funny and stuff, but here he is. It is like they were just like, Willem, you just have a good time. We're gonna put this makeup on you, and you just do whatever the hell you want.
I mean, Life Aquatic.
That's a silly character for sure.
Yeah,
but it's just, I mean, honestly, though of course the presence of him is different. Green Goblin kind of actually, in terms of just like this character that can take these wild swings.
Yeah.
I think because most of the stuff I see him in is very serious.
Totally.
And he is, of course, an incredible actor. Another one of our greatest. And this is one of those things where I was like, I had to think back on this and go like, I can't believe this is the first time he's worked with Burton, just because his energy feels like it fits, and it does in this movie. Seems like it would really jibe with Burton's.
Totally. Yeah, I'm just going back to his filmography and like, yeah, I mean, look, he wasn't a laugh riot in The Lighthouse, but he was certainly.
Yeah, he's a guy who will make, I mean, like in The Northman and stuff like that. Once again, these aren't comedic performances, but he is always a guy, and that's why I'm saying I think it really works that him and Burton would fit together, right? Because it's like they are both guys who love eccentricities and love to drill down into like real specifics of a character. We covered Shadow of the Vampire on Meet the Monsters a while back, and just, he's so he's just, like Keaton, they are guys who just go all in on stuff.
I mean, he's the best part of, what was that other vampire movie he was in? Daybreakers?
Oh, he fucking rules in that movie. We also just did that somewhat recently on Meet the Monsters, too. Willem Dafoe is a guy who keeps popping up on Meet the Monsters, believe it or not. And, what's he in this Christmas? Nosferatu, I see. Where I can't wait, because he's basically playing off-brand Van Helsing.
I mean, Nosferatu is just off-brand Dracula, so you need an off-brand Van Helsing.
He is the off-brand Van Helsing in it, because what is he? Professor von something.
Alban Ebenhard von Franz.
Yeah, but I'm just like, dude, I want to see. We've seen Willem Dafoe play vampires, former vampires, now a vampire hunter. Feels like he's done it all. But yeah, and he's also going to be in Saturday Night, which is coming out in a couple weeks. Dude works, is what we're saying.
Sure.
I think that guy's always filming a movie. Anyway,
I enjoyed all the little bits of him. I just thought it was yet another piece of just extra stuff in this movie. This movie felt like it was full of stuff. And you talk about Tim Burton having a good time. Clearly he is, because nobody told him no on this film. This does not feel like a movie in which anyone stopped and said, Tim, you keep adding more and more stuff to this. Are we sure? And nobody asked that question.
No, because they hired Tim Burton to make Beetlejuice, and they're like, that guy knows how to make Beetlejuice. That guy is Beetlejuice. Like, he's working with his showrunners from Wednesday.
Yeah.
Talk about a person who just instantly fits the Burton aesthetic. He's got Jenna Ortega in this, who just was like made in the lab to be in Tim Burton movies. This is the first time in a while he's worked with Winona Ryder, who of course was part of his stable of actors.
What was the last Burton thing she was in?
God, it might have been. Was it Edward Scissorhands? It might have been. Oh no, I think she's she's in Frankenweenie. She's one of the voices in Frankenweenie.
Okay.
But it's interesting she's been several of the key. I mean, she's in Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands, and those are two massive, iconic ones. So I think she's somebody.
She was part of building that aesthetic, right?
Right. Yeah. She's in two key early Burton classics, and I think that's why. And also, she looks like a Burton drawing.
Yeah, and look, something that emerged from the Burton aesthetic that was obviously like a ramshackle of so many different other like pieces of Gothic and Americana like bits that were stapled together like some poor kid's dead dog.
Yeah.
Was like this idea of the moody goth girl as like
I think it is interesting
attraction object for people like Burton growing up, and
right
guys
after
like us, let's be
Edward
honest.
Scissorhands, she does Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is not a Burton movie, but is furthermore gothic horror, aesthetic. Could have been a Burton movie. I'm actually surprised Burton hasn't made a Dracula movie. It would make sense. I mean, Burton
Dracula's too. I mean, no offense, but too serious.
I mean, that's why he did Dark Shadows.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think because there is a sense of, if not comedy, absurdity in Burton, right? Like his Batman
needs
movies
absurdity.
aren't funny, but they're absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're right in that. Is that the movie this actually, when you're talking about this movie being full of stuff, the movie this reminds me of that was very polarizing in Burton's career, but I rank very highly, is Mars Attacks, a movie that is all threads.
And Mars Attacks that's actually a very interesting comparison point, because that is another movie that is just full of stuff. I would agree with that. And the reason I think I like gravitate towards it more
wild
is because it fits more into this disaster movie frame of we're seeing this big event happen from multiple angles. And this Beetlejuice doesn't really have that.
Well, there's this like the Beetlejuice is this like whirling dervish of chaos, and it just keeps grabbing people into it. And so it's like somebody does something which further contributes to the insanity of this, and further because like all the things connect, but not in like a natural narrative way. Just like you're coming along for the ride too, and you're coming along for the ride too.
Right, but like certain characters within that whirlwind aren't even aware of all the different aspects of it. Like, is Winona Ryder's character is she even aware of the ex-wife plotline happening?
No,
I didn't think so.
No, I don't think she is.
And neither is Astrid, for that matter. And like, I don't think Astrid's even like super aware of Beetlejuice, except tangentially. Like, because
it's her dealing. It's Lydia's whole thing about like, don't say that name, don't ever say that name. I mean, I love her being like, this is gonna sound crazy, Justin Theroux. When I was a teenager, there was a chaotic demon that tried to marry me, and
yeah.
And I love that guy's. I think Thoreau is so fucking funny in this movie. Talk about a guy who almost always does like serious stuff, but is quietly one of the funniest people in the world. I think
he's got real John Hamm energy.
Very much so. And if you look at his writing career, he's written stuff like Tropic Thunder and stuff like that. So he's, I think he's definitely a comedy guy who ends up doing stuff like The Leftovers, and although if you watched White House Plumbers, I don't know if you watched that on HBO, where he played about the Watergate break, and he played G. Gordon Liddy, who was a real person but was a broadly comedic figure. Basically, it's a genius performance.
I would recognize him most as the evil DJ from Zoolander.
Yes. Oh, he obviously, I said he co-wrote Tropic Thunder and Zoolander too. He's a good buddy of Ben Stiller's, and in with I love him in Wanderlust. He's in with the State crowd and stuff like that.
He played the James Bond guy they were sent to find on Canto Bight in Last Jedi.
Such a great turn with his little mustache and stuff like that. He's rolling the dice. Yeah. No, he's super fun. And I think he's having a great time here. And because he's the guy he's the modern faux woke dude, right?
Right. Yeah. He's the one who is aware of all the language he has to be using in order to seem progressive.
He's, like I said, it's something Burton really hates, obviously, is just that phoniness that comes up in a lot of his movies and in villainous characters who are like, yeah. And in this case, glomming on, I mean, literally glomming on to, he talks about, he went to a grief, retreat to pick up women.
Right.
But in the movie, it's revealed that he's, and when she wants a small wedding, he says, I just invited, people with influence. Was it nobody under 500,000 or whatever it is, followers?
Yeah. Look, all those influencers, they're dead, right? At the end of this movie?
Yep.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah, no question. And I'm okay with that. Well, because that's sort of the Beetlejuice is, as you're talking about, an antagonistic figure. I do think that's something that I've talked to a lot of people about this, and I definitely had this as a kid, is realizing when you watch as an adult, you're like, oh, he's the bad guy, isn't he? Because when I was a kid, I watched it for Beetlejuice. What a scamp. Love him.
It's what makes the cartoon so baffling after the fact.
I think that really contributed to that. People in our generation, too, is like thinking, oh, yeah. And I think, like I said, I think some of the scripts started to take on that. I think Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian and stuff started to take on that. And I think that was the kind of stuff where Burton and Keaton were like, maybe we just don't, because that's not the movie we want to make. I don't think Keaton wanted to play a cuddly, gentler Beetlejuice. Because Beetlejuice,
a lovable scamp.
Yeah, Beetlejuice isn't. Beetlejuice a fucking predator, man. Like, he's a nightmare. And I was delighted by how much they kept him that in this. He is not a good guy. He's a scumbag. Yeah. You like him. You think he's funny, but also you're like, ugh. I mean, I love just that small moment when he looks Catherine O'Hara up and down. She's like, ugh. Like, that should be the reaction of Beetlejuice. Should be, oh God, this guy.
The fact that we do get a Beetlejuice origin story and it turns out like, no, he was just a creep in real life who then died.
I love that. Yeah, because you're like, I saw this with friend of the show, Brendan Jones, and he was just like, oh wow, we saw Beetlejuice as a human, and you're like, yeah, but he was still just that same guy. He's raiding he's stealing from dead plague victims. I was plying my trade, I think he says.
Yeah,
robbing corpses.
Yeah. He's a grave robber. His wedding ceremony involved biting the heads off of chickens and sacrificing a goat.
Yeah, you know how it goes. One of my other favorite lines goes, I know what you're thinking. Who could tie down the juice? What woman could satisfy him?
This is all built off of the like throwaway line in the first movie when he pulls the finger out of his pocket and it's like, my ex, don't worry.
Yeah.
She's not in the picture anymore.
Can we also talk about the Danny DeVito cameo where Tim Burton can't not have stuff leaking out of Danny DeVito's mouth?
He just loves having Danny DeVito leak all over the place.
Yeah, because that was
fucking gurgling Drano.
So funny. And also, I mean, if you're gonna put Danny DeVito in a movie, her putting herself back together, Dolores, Beetlejuice's ex-wife, and then just have him go, "Hey, listen, toots." I'm like, oh, of course that's what DeVito's doing. Yeah, I mean, it like I said, even the inclusion of the DeVito cameo, it does just seem like Tim Burton's throwing a party and everyone's invited. I like that party. I think that's the thing. At the end of the day, I don't think we can really have like a, like you're saying, I think you were right about like the point counterpoint is just like, yeah, but I like it. I don't know what to tell. Like it's just, and I think that's why obviously people are going, I mean, it's, we'll have you'll know based on that, but it like right now it might take number one again over the Transformers thing. Like it is just, and I saw it the first time I saw it. It was with a full crowd there were 6 little children in front of me that were uproariously laughing. Like families are going. It's Can
I talk about my theater experience with this movie for a second?
Please do, yeah.
Because this might have, let's be perfectly honest. Maybe my experience watching Beetlejuice in theaters was somewhat soured by the 4-year-old sitting down the row from us who was constantly asking questions and talking and not caring about the movie and literally running up and down the row and their parents not reining this child in at all.
Yeah, I mean that'll definitely put an edge on a thing for sure. I've had that where it's like, I mean, maybe it's not like a full-on thumbs up to thumbs down, but like, definitely been like, oof. I John, had that Inside Out too.
You know me. I am no stranger to turning around and telling people to shut the fuck up in a movie theater.
I've seen you do it, yeah.
I pride myself on my willingness to have a confrontation in a public place when it means telling people to shut up.
Right.
Now, I kind of do draw that line on children. So,
yeah,
it's really tough to turn to a toddler and say, can you shut that fucking brat up?
Yeah.
Now, if I was Beetlejuice, maybe I wouldn't feel so bad about that.
Oh, no. No.
Will you please shut that kid up?
That's the fun of the,
and then turn it into a puppy or something. I don't know.
The fun of the musical is that he, because it's a musical, is able to break the fourth wall. So he will get mad at audience members. And part of his opening act is, and if your cell phone goes off during the show, I'll kill you myself. Once again, highly recommend looking up clips online of the musical. It's a delight. So
ultimately, I enjoyed this movie moment to moment. It's only really in retrospect and thinking about it's a vibes movie and it's fun in the moment and there are laughs to be had.
It's a good vibe, man. It's a good time. That's my thing is I like the people. I like the party. I like this party, man. One of the big things made of it that we haven't talked about, one of the big things going into this was the practical approach to the effects.
Yeah, I enjoy a lot of practical effects. I love the sets that they had built in this. Seeing a giant explosion of intestines erupt out of Michael Keaton's stomach and spray Winona Ryder is funny and gross and fun.
You get it. You're gonna spill. Who's gonna spill their guts first? I will. And it's like I like these. Like, see, I'm willing to do the work.
Practical Beetlejuice demon baby, funny,
so funny.
The whole end sequence of this movie that is the nightmare and the double fake out of them waking up in bed, I thought was fun.
Yeah, one, and also is just like, oh yeah, Beetlejuice was defeated, but he's still there. You know, he's still gonna be creeping around.
Sure, Beetlejuice be creeping.
For Beetlejuice, which I'm sure Warner Brothers is like, Tim, did you see these box office receipts?
The runner of Vern Gorman being like a low-key alcoholic priest through the movie who only speaks in Bible quotes.
One of the biggest laughs is just he gives that long thing and just Catherine O'Hara going, what? Hilarious. What? Yeah. Also, maybe the funniest of the lip sync reactions is Vern Gorman. The way his mouth is like shit, and he's like, what
song are they lip syncing there at the
They're
end?
lip syncing MacArthur Park is Melting in the Dark.
See, I only know it as Jurassic Park is Scary in the Dark by Weird Al, and that's my problem, though.
Yeah, that is a problem. But no, that's, Beetlejuice serenading her with the guitar sitting on the gravestone is also wonderful. He's lip syncing one of those 80s romantic ballads. It's just, it just gives me a good feeling. Like the first one. I'm going to watch both of these on Halloween's going forward. I just think it's fun. I love Bob and all of his little, friends.
Why are there so many shrunken head guys in this movie?
I don't know. I don't think Beetlejuice took a liking to them and recruited more or something. I don't know.
But in the first movie, the implication is that this is a guy that died because of a fairly racist caricature of a voodoo head shrinker.
Yeah, who then also
killed
shrinks
this guy.
Head, if you remember the first movie.
Yeah, but now there's like a whole office full of these guys.
I don't know. Something happened in 36 years. I'm willing to let a lot of stuff go.
Okay,
it's funny.
I mean, I can't ask questions about this movie because it is reveling in the fact that it is irreverent and lacks logic.
I mean, I think some of that's the thing where I push back on, and I'm not saying that they aren't, legit, because whatever works for you, as we always say on the show, whether it works or it doesn't. But it is sort of like, there is a sort of randomness baked into the whole thing. Like, if you are asking questions like that's not a serious criticism of the movie, I don't think, when you're going like, where do all these shrunken head guys come from?
No, because
I don't think you'd actually expect the movie to explain that.
No, and there's plenty of stuff in this movie that I'm not expecting the movie to explain. Like, why are suddenly the sandworms on a moon of Saturn?
Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Why were there like the presence of the sandworms in the original movie is just why do they even exist?
Sure. I did like that there was a legit call out to Dune in this movie when they have the sand rippling effect that Dune also has.
Yeah. Also Warner Brothers picture.
Yeah, I
Warner
just thought that was
Brothers
funny.
Sandworms have been good to Warner Brothers this year, man.
Going forward, we need more sandworms in our pictures.
Yeah. I don't understand. I was making this sensitive character drama at Warner Brothers, and they just kept saying, "Have you thought about putting a sandworm in it?" It's like I don't really know where that fits, but
all right, we have this new Nicholas Sparks scripts.
Yeah,
it could use more Shai Hulud.
I was gonna say though, I do love the bit with the shrunken head guys running around the real world. That as soon as Beetlejuice blows open a hole in it, they just bolt, and then they're just running around chaotically.
Did we get any resolution on that? I don't think so.
No, they're still just running around the real world. Okay. I think by the end of it. Last we see them, they're in a convenience store buying snacks.
Their mouths are sewn shut. Yeah, all right.
I don't know. I do love Willem Dafoe trying to sweat information out of Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bob done, yeah. the title, the credits at the end, when they dedicated the movie in loving memory to Bob.
Yeah.
What was it, like 1396 to like something crazy like
2024, yeah.
Yeah. We will never forget.
Never forget, Bob.
That's what I mean. That just speaks to this whole attitude is everyone's just having a good time. Everyone's happy to be here. And I think
what typified it for me was
it felt like people were dragged here. Yeah.
Yeah. What typified it for me was the first fuck in the movie. And obviously it's a PG-13, so you can only have the one fuck. And then they had a second fuck that they just bleeped.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's just like, look, don't ask logic out of Beetlejuice. It has none to provide.
People forget he drops an F-bomb in the first movie. That's always the thing I was talking about. Because like I said, there were a bunch of, and the kids in front of me were kids, but they were not, they didn't run around. They were decently behaved by 6 little kids in a movie theater standards. I would have preferred they weren't there, but they didn't do anything like you were talking about with the kids in your theater. But it's an interesting thing, like we were talking about, with him also being like a sexual predator, or at least a lech at the very least. He's at least a harasser, if not an actual.
I don't know if Beetlejuice is going to ever commit sexual assault, but he's definitely towing that line.
Yeah, he's a perv. There's no question.
Yeah.
I mean, he was trying to marry like a 14-year-old as well in the first movie, which is
sure, but she at least nominally has consent through this film.
Yeah, yeah. And in this one, they're more she's more age appropriate for him, at least visually speaking. Of course, she mentions the 500-year age difference between them.
Yeah,
but because he's also just a corpse. Because when he's talking to, he's like, Bob, long distance relationships are tough, especially when one of us is dead.
Why is Beetlejuice obsessed with her?
I think because she can. I have to imagine it's because of the psychic powers, right?
Again, it's just yet another thing this movie has no interest in.
The movie doesn't really explain it either.
Well, the first movie, it's a means to an end. The first movie, it's just he needs to marry somebody to escape.
And maybe that's just because it's like, I could see Beetlejuice also just being a guy who's like, well, I chose her randomly before, so that's just going to be the way it is.
Sure. It's a Joker and Harley thing.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just like, yeah, maybe he's just upset that he wanted to marry her and that didn't happen, so it becomes his fixation. I don't know. It doesn't matter. He is. I mean, we talk about that's the weird thing about pairing them up in the animated series, though, is you're like, oh, no, wait a minute. Okay. Not that they're a romantic pairing in that show, but it is like, okay.
Well, in that show, they're like a girl on adventures with this weird random spirit that happens to be her antagonistic buddy. That show's weird.
Yeah. The show is very weird, and it really doesn't jive with the movie at all. But no, to that point is what I'm saying is, it's so interesting that it's now like listed as a family classic and stuff. It's really not like made for kids necessarily. Like I loved as a kid because I think the reason it's that great thing that we had more commonly in the 80s, where there were movies that kids liked and the stuff that wasn't for kids just whipped past them.
Yeah, I mean, there was also this whole era of dark fantasy stuff, right? That was meant to be ostensibly for families, but also had this creepier edge that was meant to disturb in some ways. You had things like the Dark Crystal and Willow and Beetlejuice and like things that had this darker edge to it.
Something like Goonies a little bit, right? I mean, there's like, or Monster Squad. But yeah, I mean, it is like, he drops an F-bomb in the original movie. He's trying to look up Gina Davis's skirt. He at one point he goes to a brothel in the first movie, if you remember.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there's a thing where that's how they escape from at one point, is they put a brothel on the model so that will distract him for a while. You're like, yeah, there's lots of weird stuff in that movie, and that's one of the things I think I was delighted that this movie didn't really sand off any of those edges on him.
Yeah, obviously they're a bit more conscientious about like what will and will not play to audiences in 2024.
Yeah, he doesn't, but like he is still a gross dude who is wanting to get with ladies and and cursing and which I could see them wanting to be like, hey, whoa, back off. The thing I don't like is I've now seen a couple of conservative commentators go like, see, we're winning because Beetlejuice didn't get woke, and you're like, all right. I'm not sure the absence of something means that people are on your side of stuff, but okay, all right.
Look, yeah, don't you know, John? If you have a character that doesn't speak in some kind of feminist ideal, then obviously that means it's also a conservative claim.
They didn't make Lydia a girl boss, so you're like, okay. Once again, I'm not sure that's endorsing anything, but sure. Because Tim Burton really strikes me as a guy with conservative values too.
Look, what we do know about Beetlejuice is that he's for small government and he's small c conservative. Yeah. But he is fairly liberal when it comes to skirting the veil between life and death.
He is, but he is a small business owner. I do like the whole thing of him running his bioexorcism firm.
Sure,
some honeymoon package, Which actually, from the sound of it, that was what Beetlejuice in Love was going to be, which is a guy died, hires Beetlejuice to break up his, widow and her new boyfriend, and then Beetlejuice would have fallen in love with that woman.
Okay. I mean,
that, once again, that's like a funny concept, but you're also like, man, I mean, if that becomes like a primary arc for Beetlejuice, I could see that going real bad.
Yeah, it's tough to picture Beetlejuice in love. I mean, I guess he ostensibly is in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, he's fixated on Lydia. I think he would say he's in love. I don't think we would associate that as love.
Yeah, what Beetlejuice's goals are in this film are obscure to me, other than simply escaping his ex-wife.
Escaping his ex-wife, and then it becomes, as always with Beetlejuice, is, hey, wait a minute, is this a way to get Lydia back? And then, of course, immediately being like, I can kill two birds with one stone here by getting her to marry me, because I can help her get her daughter back. I mean, I think Beetlejuice is actually has the clearest motivations as a character, which is he's always just looking for that, that con or whatever, that thing about like, oh yeah, how do I get
his goal in this film is to marry Lydia. Why is the problem I keep asking?
Well, he already is fixated on Lydia, and he thinks that if he marries her, then that will, I mean, it's probably misguided that will stop Dolores.
I guess, but then Dolores is eaten by a sandworm, and he just keeps going for the marriage.
Oh, because he does still want to marry Lydia. It's just, why is he doing it now?
Yeah. I don't know. Again, maybe I'm looking for character motivation where I shouldn't be.
He's Beetlejuice. I feel like if there's one character, you should.
Sure.
I don't know. Like I said, I think it's fun. I think people should see it if they want to. And obviously people are seeing it, so I don't have to.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Like, I don't want to say, like, oh, I found all of these narrative problems with the movie. That means you shouldn't go see it. Like, because clearly people are enjoying this movie. If you're there for, like, a good vibes-based comedy, again, I laughed at big swaths of this film.
It's very, like, the movie is very charming. It's very, like I said, it's very fun. It's like that can't be denied. You can say I didn't enjoy it, other aspects, but like to be like, oh boy, this thing stinks. You're not saying that, obviously.
I think this will.
I think Beetlejuice probably legitimately stinks, but
this movie will make a lot of really good clips on YouTube and TikTok. I can say that much.
Oh sure, Because there are so many. I mean, and the first movie has that too, right? And I think one of the reasons it became iconic is there are so many gags people remember.
Yeah, there are lots and lots of gags in this movie, and it throws so many at you that you don't really stop to think about what's going on until after the fact, because the gags keep coming.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that as a negative or a positive. I'm saying that is the nature of this film. And so expecting that going in, I think would maybe lessen the
Go to have
expectations of narratives that make sense that maybe I had.
Yeah. Like I said, just go to have a good time. Go to laugh.
Go get a weird popcorn bucket because everyone loves those.
Oh, let me tell you this story. Speaking of that, I said I saw this with our pal Brendan, and he really wanted. They had a whole lineup on top of the popcorn machine of these cups with toppers that were the shrunken head and something else, and he wanted the one that was the Beetlejuice neon sign, right? It's Beetlejuice, and he goes, "Yeah, can I get a drink in that cup?" And they're like, "Oh, actually, you have to buy it as a set with the collector's popcorn tin as well. So it's $35 for both." And he was like, "What?
Oh,
I don't want. I just wanted the cup." And I was, he was going to spend whatever $10 or whatever on the cup, but they're like, "No, it's a whole thing."
yeah, it's a set package. You can't get one without the other. That's how they get you.
I'm just like, fucking Regal, man. Unless they want to sponsor us, then the fine folks at Regal are doing a great job.
That is the most economic way of selling those things, John.
Yeah,
thanks to the fine folks at Regal.
But I did just think, come on, man. I also thought, like, all right, well, that just cost them a sale because he obviously did not get that. But I'm sure, plenty of people, especially if you got kids, I want the thing.
Yeah,
yeah.
The merchandise I saw around this movie, I guess that's another angle to this.
A lot of merch.
The number of commercials for Beetlejuice stuff that has popped up around this movie. We got the Denny's menu. We got the IHOP menu. We got the CarMax commercial that I saw in front of this movie.
Which has the shrunken head guys, which I did think, like, oh, interesting. We got the shrunken head guys. No actual cast members, of course.
There's all the Fanta flavors of Beetlejuice.
Oh,
there is
Beetlejuice Haunted Apple is delicious. I'm sincerely saying that. The Beetlejuice Fanta flavor is very, very good.
God,
I'm not
John,
kidding.
I wasn't turning this into a sponsored ad read, but here we are.
No, but it is really good. It took me by surprise because it's like a cinnamony apple, not like a candy apple.
I would just be very curious to know what the marketing budget on this film was. It's doing well, and obviously there is this cultural appreciation for Beetlejuice. I just didn't think that it was going to run so deep as to have a Denny's menu for it.
I think, well, and by the way, Denny's pays them for that, so keep that in mind.
Fair enough.
I think that everything works out for them in that. I think the thing about this, and I was talking to my sister about this, and she said this, which I think is true, because I was going like, it's so crazy. This movie has all this stuff behind it, and it's 36 years later, right? And I think she said something which is true. It's like, this is a perennial Halloween movie. Beetlejuice is not old. It's timeless. People have been watching this forever. So to kids, hell yeah, Beetlejuice is that Halloween movie. Of course we want to see another one. I don't think it has that thing that sometimes when they come back decades later and make a sequel, I think it makes sense that they were always trying to make one because they were right. There was always more interest in it. It's unlike a Hocus Pocus, which was not successful in its day and then has since gained that following, but that sequel kind of didn't make waves.
Well, and Hocus Pocus is this, I feel like it has less iconography behind it, right? As opposed to Beetlejuice, which has in the panoply of Beetlejuice action figures, you can have the big top Beetlejuice and horny scuzzball Beetlejuice and the classic black and white striped suit Beetlejuice. Like, Beetlejuice can't be nailed down to a single thing.
I mean, I was just looking at the McFarlane making the figures, and they have several, yes, as you bring up, several versions of Beetlejuice.
So that lends itself to this, like, the marketing of it, where Hocus Pocus is just the three witches and maybe Doug Jones if you're being generous.
And the cat, right? I mean, like, it has some stuff, but yeah, that movie is iconic as a movie, but yeah, I do think Beetlejuice and these Beetlejuice toys have never gone away. Like we're talking about, he's always just present. I think that's the
and
thing.
the sandworm and the shrunken head guy, and even like the Beetlejuice house is an iconic image of that weird house on the top of the hill with like the carved out windows and weird statues.
Absolutely. No, I think I think that's part of Burton's gift coming from art, right? Is that all of his movies are iconic on some level. I think, people talking about the first half of his career certainly is more iconic than the second half, and it's probably true for a lot of filmmakers, but, his Batman, Edward Scissorhands, Beetlejuice. I mean, hell, even Ed Wood has an iconography for it. They don't make toys of it, but it does. Mars Attacks.
Yeah.
So, I think that there's a reason this weird artsy goth guy is so beloved by studios. I mean, look at Wednesday. The real Burton Renaissance began there, right?
Oh, and you and I talked about that show. I really liked Wednesday.
Wednesday's great. And he's directing 4 of the episodes for this new season, too. That they're filming now.
And look, Jenna Ortega, I think, is his discovery of this like second generation moody goth girl vibe that began with Winona Ryder, right?
And with Winona Ryder, then Christina Ricci, and now Jenna Ortega.
Totally. Like there is a progression here, and Tim Burton has helped identify that progression over the years that the aesthetic that he created became a lifestyle for some people.
I mean, I would be so interested to talk to him, because especially like Nightmare Before Christmas, above all of them, right, became like a way of life. And there's always the back and forth debate about who is really the author of Nightmare Before Christmas. He didn't direct it, but I mean, Burton's all over that movie.
The aesthetic, at the very least, is so heavily embedded in
that art style.
Tim Burton
comes from the pen of Tim Burton, like all those character designs and stuff. If you've seen any of his art, that's what it looks like.
You can find notebooks of his from like art school. There's like, there's Jack Skellington. It's not all there yet, but there it is.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying he didn't have collaborators, but to be like, that wasn't a Burton movie is an insane statement.
And even things that are like off-brand, that like The Corpse Bride, are very much like,
And Frankenweenie. Those were the ones he did direct. Yeah, I mean, I think that, and I'm sure, because he and Monica Bellucci are in a relationship, so I'm sure we'll see her in 1800 more.
Oh, is that why she's in this movie?
Yeah, I mean, she's, like when he was with Helena Bonham Carter, she'll be in all of his movies.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, or at least in Marie before that,
Fair enough.
And I know, and can people stop with the like, what? Why? He's a disgusting goblin, and she's gorgeous. It's enough already. Let's,
Because he has an 11-inch penis. Who knows? Maybe he's also just a nice guy.
I also just think, like, the idea that, like, isn't that always sort of like the dark artsy type is always sort of drawn ladies in the stereotype of pop culture thing, too? I don't know.
Tim Burton would like us to think so.
Yeah, I mean, hey, the proof is in the pudding, right?
Maybe Monica Bellucci just ran into him while he was sitting alone in his treehouse reading Russian literature.
Yeah, actually, that just came right from that. I do think it's interesting that I was like, let me look this up, because there was something. He doesn't have a lot of writing credits for a guy who is such an auteur. Like, he definitely has a hand in all of these scripts, right? But I think it's interesting that he, when we talk about Tim Burton, I mean, he does have some writing credit. But a lot of his writing credits are like original idea, characters, story by. He doesn't have any screenplay credits.
Well, I mean, you talked about how he doesn't necessarily have a handle on character
He's an ideas
arcs.
Guy, right?
Yeah, he is an ideas guy, and he likes filling in the weird details in his movie and filling in the aesthetics.
I would imagine it's a lot of like, what if we did this? Then I'll read a draft and go, ooh, add these things, and then draft. Because it is things like Soul Train in this is. I've seen him go like, well, that was just a thing that's burned into my memory from having the TV on in the 70s as a kid.
Sure,
Soul Train. So it's in this, it's like stuff like that. The Mario Bava Italian Horse. That's the thing. I think it's very interesting for a guy. it does speak to the collaborative nature of film, right? That even though he's not literally sitting there writing the script, there's so much Burton in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting thing, yeah, because it's just like, because it feels like, well, these all come from him, even if other people are writing them. Some do, and I actually feel like the ones that don't feel like that, stuff like Planet of the Apes or Miss Peregrine's Home, those are the ones where I'm like, oh, those are the ones I don't like because they feel like Burton as a director for hire.
Yeah, and that is not necessarily where his skill set is best plied.
Right.
He is not a journeyman. Like, say what you will about, oh my God, why am I blanking on his name? Director of Evil Dead. Sam Raimi. When he has like a work for hire project, he can sort of like tuck back the weirdness. Now, when he's allowed to indulge in it, it shows, because you can have stuff where you have the Raimi cam showing up. But
I mean,
like,
the people who said Multiverse of Madness felt anonymous are insane. I don't know what they were watching.
Exactly. That's sort of my point. It's
so
just like
Raimi,
he can infuse himself into movies in a way that like Tim Burton can't in some ways, unless he's given enough freedom to really spread himself into the cracks of a film. Otherwise, it feels lifeless a little bit, and that's how you get a Planet of the Apes or Miss Peregrine's.
Or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I mean, there was that period of time when, and I think the fellows over on Blank Check talked about this when they were talking about this same movie. It's true, where it sort of became like, Tim, what if you did this? What's a Tim Burton Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? And you get the sense like somebody else convinced him to do that. He didn't have a take, but he's like, well, I guess if you're now asking me to think about it, it would kind of look like this, or Alice in Wonderland. And those were both very successful movies. But I would say those are like, his heart doesn't feel in on the same way. Or something like Sweeney Todd, where it's almost just like, well, it's got to be Tim who directs that. And you're like, yeah, I understand that thought process, but was he really the right guy to direct that? It almost feels like sometimes it was a lazy thing. I think Dark Shadows was that to a certain extent too, even though I do enjoy Dark Shadows. I think it's a bigger mess than this movie, but I like a lot of it. But it is the sort of thing where it's like, well, Tim, you would do Dark Shadows, right? And he's like, yeah, I guess I could do Dark Shadows.
Sweeney Todd is a blur to me because I saw it literally the same day I saw Alien vs. Predator Requiem, so I don't know what to make of either of those films.
That's just anymore. Way too much blood in one day here. No, Sweeney Todd is just where it's just like, well, then he's going to put Depp in it. You're like, but Depp isn't a singer. And Helen Bonham Carter, but she's not a singer. They both can.
That has never stopped Hollywood actors before.
No, it's one of my big problems with most. To be fair, that movie is guilty of a lot of the stuff that most Broadway movie adaptations I'm bothered by. See Wicked, which I will not be seeing when it comes out. I'm like, are you kidding me? Okay. Anyway,
and yet you just rewatched Phantom of the Opera.
Well, yeah, it's not, but that was for work. Yeah, that's not good. Because that man can't sing. Like, Depp can sing. He's just not like a Broadway. Gerard Butler can't sing.
He can bellow.
Oh, yeah, he can shout. He and Pierce Brosnan are great shouters. Yeah. Anyway, though, yeah, I think this movie's a blast.
And I think it's fun enough.
Fun. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take fun enough.
Look, do I regret seeing this movie? No, absolutely not. Am I going to see it again next Halloween? No, also probably not.
It's probably going to be on my rotation with Beetlejuice. And my other Burton Halloween frequent is Sleepy Hollow.
I mean, Sleepy Hollow's fine.
Sleepy Hollow is Burton's Hammer movie, so that's what I love about it, you know?
Sure. I mean, I mentioned Raimi. Like, the Evil Dead movies are on my Halloween rotation. So,
I mean, obviously, John Carpenter's Halloween is another one for me.
Totally.
Yeah.
The thing with this movie, I guess, is maybe me realizing that I'm not a huge Tim Burton fan.
And he is a guy who, like we talked about, even when people talk, I still go to every one of his movies because he made Batman.
Yeah,
but like legitimately, like he's made enough of the movies that like are formative to me that I will always see. Like he's in that category with Spielberg, where it's like it doesn't matter. I'll go see it because these guys are so influential on me.
I mean, that's
So maybe
fair.
that,
Look,
I mean, I want to like Burton. I don't, like I said, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or Alice in Wonderland aren't movies I love, but I saw them and I don't hate them. There are moments where I'm like, ooh, little Burton sneaking through there.
you can have the appreciation you want with that, John, and
Yeah,
I'll stick to my giant radioactive lizard movies. You stick to your guy who made Batman Once Upon a Time movies.
Yeah. And he should make Batman again. That's all I'm saying. Bring him back, baby.
What does that even look like in 2024?
I don't know. I mean, kind of like this movie, probably. Yeah. I don't know. He's just a guy who I'm always intrigued to see what he's doing because, and he's never fully lost me like a Zemeckis who had to get taken off that list for me because it's like, how many times can this guy,
Where did Zemeckis lose you? Was it Marwen?
Yeah, Marwen was a big one. Yeah. Well, I think it's a realization where I was just like, I haven't legitimately liked one of his movies in over 20 years. Like Castaway is the last movie of his I legitimately love. And then since then it's been a steady decline of either ungodly horrible or and this new one, what the fuck, man?
Is the new one
Here?
Oh, is that the one where the camera never moves?
Yeah. And it takes place in one specific spot for millions of years. It starts in dinosaur times and then goes through to modern day.
Well, okay, John. They didn't tell me there would be dinosaurs in this movie.
Yeah,
I just thought
I think there's briefly dinosaurs. I don't think it's
okay.
dinosaur.
And like that, you've lost me.
I think it's mostly de-aged or a wide range of aging Tom Hanks.
If it was Tom Hanks as an Apatosaurus, I think I'd have me more on board.
Tom's also playing the dinosaurs. Yeah, no.
Oh, well, you got me back
I
again.
have no idea, but I mean, that's what Zemeckis does in a lot of that movie. But he is just, and I'm sorry, that trailer's creepy.
I didn't watch the trailer.
Tom Hanks plays the same character from 15 to 85.
Ooh, de-aging can only go so far. We've learned this.
Yeah. And Zemeckis is so proud of it that he does, he has him walk right into camera. Like, hi, I'm teenage Tom Hanks. You're like, Paul Bettany is playing Tom Hanks's father? Oh, it looks, dude, Zemeckis can't stop. Sorry, but welcome back to John Brandt's about Zemeckis. And if you listen to our upcoming Adventures of Tintin episode, you can hear more of that.
I'm trying to think of a movie that has used de-aging that far, and it's like Benjamin Button and Avatar 2 are the only two I can think of
that have used. What do you mean?
Like de-aging people to teenagers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because Sigourney Weaver is a teenager in Avatar 2.
Right.
But she's also a blue cat person, so it's
I think that
easier to cover.
That adds it, that obfuscates, right? And like Tom Hanks played the little kid in Polar Express, but it doesn't read as Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
So I don't think that counts. I don't know. I mean, Downey in Civil War, he's not a teen, but he's like college age, right?
That's one scene. Yeah.
Oh yeah, one I don't know because even the de-aging in Irishman, I don't think he's under 30 supposed to be.
No, I don't. He's always an adult.
Yeah, he's always an adult man, exactly. So yeah, I think this is but this is like, hi, it's me, high school Tom Hanks.
For some reason, I sound like I'm in my 50s.
That's always the thing, right? It's always the thing, or the.
I mean, that was the problem with The Irishman too, right? It's like even young De Niro sounded like he was an old De Niro.
A lot of people talk about the physicality too. You're like, he's beating a guy up, but he's moving a little slow. Mm-hmm. Or Pacino took a little longer to get out of a chair than you would expect a 35-year-old man to. Whatever. I love that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, yeah.
Beetlejuice. Your mileage may vary. Go have fun if you feel like it.
Michael Keaton's sure having fun.
He's clearly having fun.
Well, if you want more from us, you can check out our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/punchupent. That's punchupent. I said head over there for exclusive content as well as help support the shows on the network.
And of course, one of the better ways to support the show, if you don't feel like giving us cash on a monthly basis, which we do encourage, but isn't necessary to enjoy everything we do here at Punch Up.
We do take tips.
We do work for tips. But
Yeah.
you can find us over on our YouTube page, youtube.com/@punchupentertainment. There you can watch this show, see our shining, beautiful faces, as well as every other show on the network, like IP Squad, like Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters, like Punch Up Plays, where Elliot Lewis and I are currently playing through the Mass Effect series. Come on, while you're there, please like, comment, subscribe. Help us by dongling that bongle and get a notification every time there is a new Punch Up show, which at this point is damn near every day.
Pretty much, yeah. We've got a new episode of Gimme 5 coming out in the next week or so.
Oh, who are you interviewing for that one?
I'm going to be interviewing Michelle Apollategui, who's a playwright and actor here in Portland, who's doing speaking of it, she's doing a spooky Halloween show that she's promoting. So,
Fun.
yeah, check that out. But I think that's going to do it for Panel Up this month. I'm John Campbell.
And I, as always, will be Mike Cargoni.
Until next month, we're going to panel down.